Let's talk about how devastating coronavirus has been for global trade. Of course, we know the impact that there's been on the supply chain. How long is, in your sense, until things are actually going to return to normal? Or I guess that's anyone's guess. And will things ever return to normal?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't think things will return to normal as we've known them, over the past couple of decades. Some major changes underway right now. One is strategic goods, strategic products. If you look at things like pharma, if you look at, obviously, the issue with the face masks being manufactured in China, not being in ample supply. If you look at the fact that about 70 to 80% of the content of cold and flu medicine, the ingredients, actually come from China and India. Those are very strategic goods now that are going to have to be moved, ring-fenced. So we're going to see, I think, massive restructuring of supply chains.
Of course, we've had the effective closure of global borders, the effective halt of globalization, particularly in the last few days, and this continues as countries work to continue preventing people from overseas coming in. What is that going to mean for global trade and also, I guess, perhaps the psychology of globalization going forward?
Well, it just means that this phenomenon of localization, which has already been underway over the past 2 or 3 years, certainly the trade war, the U.S.-China trade war has spurred that on. That phenomenon will now accelerate. So where there was decoupling around strategic national security issues and technologies, those supply chains will restructure and more localization will occur. One of the things that's very important here to note is that companies are going to be looking more and more to automate manufacturing processes, and to speed up that localization process, they're going to be looking to put in robotics, much more automated manufacturing, and be less vulnerable to pandemics that affect, of course, human labor and human capital.
Yeah, absolutely. Hadley.
Alex, it's Hadley out in Abu Dhabi. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a fascinating time just from the perspective of geopolitics, the history here, especially coming off the back of this first phase of the trade deal, and so much momentum behind that ahead of the coronavirus outbreak. When you think about this a little bit more further down the road, you're mentioning automation. What do you think that this means in the end for jobs, particularly when it comes to the United States? Because we are talking about an election cycle, in spite of the fact that you've got the coronavirus crisis impacting not just the economy, but obviously the politics as well. Do you see a significant change in the job outlook for the United States there? Would we see jobs repatriated, companies looking closer to home as part of that decoupling?
Absolutely. As I said, that decoupling process is now going to accelerate. One of the things that really became apparent with COVID-19 is the rapid change that's occurred in terms of the critical mass of value chains that have built up in China from, say, 2003 when we had SARS to 2019, where China went from being 4% of global GDP to almost 20% of global GDP. Most of that is you can attribute to foreign direct investment and multinationals moving a lot of their value chains into China. So that is now in sharp reversal. That is in sharp focus. Those companies are now going to be looking at ring fencing and localizing, and that's going to mean more jobs in the States. The balance, though, between human capital and artificial intelligence, robotics and people, that has yet to play out. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be that many more jobs that are going to materialize.